Welcome to the 2.0 Grandma Podcast, a space created by a grandma for grandmas and all about grandmas. Our mission is clear: to empower and support grandmas as they redefine, realign, and redesign their lives.
So, welcome to the 2.0 Grandma Podcast. I am Dr. Marsha, and I am the founder and CEO of Grandma's 2.0. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that later, as we talk. But first, I want to hear all about you. And I just want to say that this podcast is really for grandmas. It's about grandmas, and I like to say it's by a grandma. Because today's grandmas are different and
Okay.
grandmas of the past. So I want to hear what you think about that. I want to talk about your book, Quit on Quitting, because I love the title. And I had to ponder that when I first saw it. I'm like, now what does he say? Right.
Remember
So,
that.
right. And I believe that, my audience, what grandmas can really benefit from, what I learned about you that the day when I met you and the little research I've done since then. Right. So I want to hear all about that. I want to hear about the book. When I did my research, I see you're into MMA.
No, that's my son.
Oh, that's your
That's
son.
my
Okay.
son.
So it comes up as that. Okay. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
He's a junior.
Okay. No wonder. Okay. But that's okay too. And I wanted to say that my grandson and his mom were into MMA and they're in
Okay.
Newport News. So that's how I know about that. Because I wouldn't know about it if it were not for them. I would know
Okay.
nothing about that. Right. But again, I'm so delighted that you're here and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
So let's start by telling us who you are, give us a little background, then we'll dig into the book. We'll talk about grandmas, what your perspective on today's grandmas are, and then we'll just kind of see where everything else leads us. What about that?
Okay, that's great. So I guess
Okay.
I would have to start with I am my grandmother's child, right?
Oh,
And I
yeah.
say that because and this isn't just because we're on this platform, but I couldn't imagine my life without her, you know. And
Oh.
she's no longer here, but she taught me so much. And even when I found myself at events where I would be speaking. I do motivational speaking, I do coaching and things of that nature. I've had people come up to me who knew her and say, "Man, you sound just like your grandmother." I
Ah.
never
The
knew that.
wisdom that you were oh wow, I love that.
I never knew that. And so, there were things that she taught me. I thought she was just like that with me. But,
Mm-hmm.
I was told from other people that she was always like a positive light in giving, hope and messages to people. And so, being able to, take those things that I was taught, and build a life off of it. So I think that this is the perfect platform, to start with.
Oh, how wonderful. That makes me feel really good because, I always say everybody has a grandma, but everybody may not really cherish their grandma or maybe not even know their grandma because of whatever reasons. There's a lot of different reasons why they may not. But I love to hear when someone says, "Oh, I love my Grammy because she taught me this." And it also makes me reflect on my own grandma, right? And what I learned from her. And I always say, and I say this to my mom. My mom didn't like it when I say it, but I'm like, wow, I had no idea the thing that she was teaching me when she was teaching me these things. Of course, as kids, we're like, yeah, whatever, but then as we reflect, as we become adults, and we realize, oh my God, I got that from my grandma. I didn't realize that's where that came from.
Hmm.
And I've had
So
a lot of those moments.
One quick story. So we were there in the hospital when my grandmother passed, and one of the things that I'm thankful for is, everybody grieve in different ways.
Uh-huh.
That's some of the things that I coach and help people through as well. But in that moment of her passing, what flooded through my mind, what flooded through my spirit was all of those lessons, was all of those memories. And it was so comforting that
Mm.
it reminded me of, it was on the first Black Panther movie. The father had passed, and T'Challa went to go see him in the afterlife before becoming the Black Panther. And what he said was, "I'm not ready." Right?
Mm.
And so his father said, "Well, a man who has not prepared his son for his death is failed as a father."
Ooh,
And so I
powerful.
felt like in that moment, with all of
Mm.
those memories, with all of those lessons, with all of that wisdom, it was her preparation of building me into a person that she wanted me to become that helped
Mm.
me deal with it.
Mm. Mm. That's beautiful.
And so
Yeah.
it's power in because initially you're right, I was like, I didn't know exactly what our conversation was going to be. I know, when we met, it was a great connection, and I knew it
Uh-huh.
would be a great conversation.
Uh-huh.
And once I started just, thinking and meditating on exactly what it is that you do here, I was
Uh-huh.
like, and this is amazing, right? And it's
Mm.
amazing on so many levels because I think that grandmas, one of the main reasons why they don't get a whole bunch of recognition sometimes is because they've grown in their wisdom to the point where they're not doing what they're doing for recognition,
Mm. Mm.
right? So
Yes.
you have some, parents, right? Like, no disrespect, right? That's, I did this and I did this and I did that, right? Grandma don't need that.
No, we don't even say it.
You know what I mean?
The stuff that I could go down the list and say that I do would blow your mind, right?
Right. But you don't need that. And that
Right.
comes, maturity and wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because all you want to do is you want to give the love and you want it to land where it need to land. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about who did this or who did that. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Well, thank you for that. For all the grandmas out there, I thank you for sharing that and saying it that way because I believe that you are right. Now, when I started this movement, I started it because people would say to me, "Well, you don't act like a grandma." One day I told you I lived in DC for a while, right? Did I tell you
Yeah.
that? And I went to
Yeah.
Morgan.
Okay. I
I
didn't
think
know
I
that.
took, yeah, I went to Morgan. And so when you said Baltimore, I was like, oh, I went to Morgan. And I went to Morgan, and that's where I got my doctorate at Morgan.
Okay.
And I lived in DC after that for a while, and I worked there. And while I was there, I called it my grandma adventure because I moved from Newport News and I went by myself, right? And I stayed with a friend of mine, a girlfriend of mine who had known for years for about 6 weeks. And then I moved into my own apartment and I was there and I was doing my own thing. And people would say, like my friends from work where I used to work, say, I can't believe you're doing this. At this point in your life, doing this? And I said, well, first of all, I always wanted to be a doctor. I can remember when that moment happened in my life that I thought I wanted to be a doctor. And I said, oh, one day I want to be a doctor. You know, I don't know, but I remember the exact moment. I remember the person who helped me have that moment because sometimes God puts people in your path for a while, sometimes for a lifetime, but for a while, right? And you don't necessarily know what the purpose is when you first meet them, but when you do make that connection and you realize, oh my God, this woman helped me or this person helped me think that I could go beyond where I am right now and I could
Hmm.
do wonderful things. And like Les Brown said, she helped me realize there is greatness in me that I didn't know I had. And the woman that did that for me, that wasn't my grandma, but it was a woman that I worked for. Her name was Molly Briley and Molly Hughes Briley. And I named my middle son after her. But there are these people, right, in our lives that we don't even know when they're there, their purpose for us. And so, yeah, I went to DC and I remember, trying to drive in that traffic. And then I remember doing the bus thing because it was just too much and so forth and so on. And I was doing this, I was already a grandma. And so people would say to me, and I had this little convertible Mini Cooper, and I'd ride around DC with my top down and my blonde hair and all this stuff, right? And people would say, well, you don't act like a grandma. I said, well, what does a grandma act like? You don't look like a grandma. So what does a grandma supposed to look like? So because they said it so many times to me, I said, now wait a minute. There is something about these statements that I need to do something about. And at the moment, I didn't know what it was. but it kept coming at me, and I said, okay. I said, so, society has this thing about grandmas and that grandmas have a place. It's like women in society, women have a certain place. They're supposed to be nurturers, right? They're supposed to take care of the house and the children and many times work. So we've
Mhm.
got all these things that we're supposed to do in society's eyes. And grandmas, we're supposed to be, we've already raised our kids. So now we're just supposed to be here to help the others if they need it, when they need it. So we're supposed to be at everybody's beck and call.
On
And so
standby.
I was dispelling that whole myth, right? Because I decided I'm going back to school. I'm going to have my own apartment. I'm going to do this. And my family was like, I can't believe she's this. And my friends, well, I can't believe you're doing this. But I did it. And that's when the concept kind of came to me. And I'm like, wow, today's grandmas are not like grandmas of the past. Because I remember my great grandma, right, who was the type that would sit on the porch with the kids and the kids would be all around her. She loved that. She would babysit everybody's kids in the community, whoever needed it. She would cook dinner on Sunday and anybody could come over. Well, guess what? You'd be lucky if you get today's grandma to do that stuff, okay? Right? So we're not doing all that because we have stuff to do of our own. So then I started saying, oh, wow. So this is a thing. And that's how it all came about. And then I just started, doing some little events, like online. And then in the middle of COVID, that's when I really went full fledged doing this.
That's great. That's amazing.
Yeah, but to me, it was so interesting. And I'm loving it because I have found that there are so many women out there that I call the 2.0 grandma, the 2.0 version, like of a telephone. We have the 1.0, the 2.0, the 3, but now we up to 15 or 16 on the Apple
Yeah.
phones or whatever. So it's like each version you get better, you get more advanced. And so that's how I see grandmas today. I think we are an advanced version of grandmas of the past. And we are a little bit more, as some might say, self-centered or more focused on our self-care than grandmas of the past. We just did everything for everybody, and we were the last person. Like you say, we don't need all those accolades. Just come on up, bring that baby on here. If somebody wasn't taking care of their child, bring that baby on here and let them stay with me. And
Hmm.
that's what they would do. They would raise the child on their own without even thinking twice about it because so and so was not doing what she was supposed to do with that baby. But
Hmm.
today's grandma, now some are still doing that. Some are still doing that. And I commend those that are. But for the most part, most grandmas, are like the housewife grandma, like the Nene Leaks and all this. They sporting $10,000 bags and stilettos and Louboutins and all that stuff, honey. Yeah. So it's a different kind of grandma. And I just want to celebrate grandmas wherever they are in their lives. Because I
Okay.
think that's the thing that we haven't done. We haven't given them their accolades like we need to.
For sure. And I think it's evolution, right? We
Mm-hmm.
should be getting better. Even,
Yes.
when I'm talking to parents, right?
Mm.
I tell them that, with each child and, as time goes on, they should be evolving, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're either evolving or you're revolving. So we're going up or we're going in circles.
Mm.
And so I
Mm-hmm.
think that now we're at a place where this Your Grandma 2.0 movement is amazing because I shared with you one of my favorite quotes is, when the end comes for you, let it find you climbing new mountains, not slide
Mm.
down old ones.
Ooh.
Right.
Ooh.
And so getting to a place now where it's not over until it's over. And can't nobody tell you when it's over but you.
Right.
And so I think that what happens is it's easy, or it was easy, to just go with the flow and go with whatever society says
Mm-hmm.
as it relates to, let's just say, the culture centered around a grandparent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, with the evolution, it's I'm going to define who I am,
Yes.
no one else.
Yes.
And so I love it.
Yes, that's exactly it. I could say it better. May I use your words? And like we cut up the podcast and we put them online and different things like that. And sometimes we get these profound sayings, just like what you said. It's like I'm defining because that's what the movement is all about. It's like redefining who you are, not allowing other people to do that. And isn't that one of the Kwanzaa principles?
Yes.
Yes, 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 yes. You define who you are and do not let anyone else define that for you because people will, if you allow them, they will definitely define, oh no, you need to do this and you need to be in this, because I've even had my own mother say, well, no, you don't need to do that. I remember when I got my first car and I wanted a MG convertible. And my
Hmm.
mom said, well, girls don't have cars. I'm like, why girls don't have? Girls can have anything they can afford to pay for. Right. And she said, and I remember she said, well, you need to learn how to cook. So when you have it, I'm like, no, because I don't want to do that. I want to be a career woman. I don't have any interest in cooking. Right. So she was like, who is this girl? Where did she come from? So
Here's a,
I've always defied the stereotypes. Yeah.
And here's what's crazy, right? And I love cooking. I've been cooking all my life, and it was my grandma, right? She said,
Ah,
I'm going to teach you how to cook.
ah.
So you don't, no matter what she said was, so you wouldn't have to depend on anybody else.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was
Thank
going to
you.
sugarcoat it, but she
Right,
did. She was like, look,
right.
so
So
you need to know how to cook, so you don't have
yes,
to depend on anybody else to feed you.
exactly. And that's it. And that's what I say. And so like when my husband says, oh, well, I don't know how to make something, I'm like, well, you need to learn. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but you need to learn. And if you don't know that by now, after so many years, I'm sorry for you. You need to know how to do these because with my own sons, I have two sons, one daughter. And with my own sons, I said, okay, you need to know how to do your own laundry. You don't need anybody else doing that. That's your own personal business. Okay. You don't need anybody doing that. And I'm not going to do it for you after a while. Okay. So you guys can learn how to do your own. So everybody did their own laundry. And for as far as cooking, I would cook a couple days a week and the rest would have to be leftovers because I was in school.
Uh-huh.
I was always aspiring to be better and greater than what I was. And they could see that and they appreciated it. And I had no trouble out of them. And, I listen to what people say sometimes, like, yeah, I wasn't able to go to school because I had this. I'm like, look, even with my own students, because I'm a college professor, and with my own students, they say that I said, look, I understand, but I worked full time. I had three kids and I went to school. So I know you can do this. You just have to make sure that you have your time management in place, that you know that this course is going to require a certain amount of time commitment and that maybe your personal life, you won't be out there partying, but you will, eventually you'll be able to do it. So like right now, I can go anywhere I want to, when I want to go, at any time I want to go. Okay. I love it. Right. So I'm loving these grandma days. And a lot of times people think, oh no, well, now that you're a grandma, all you do is sit down and sit at home and watch TV. No, you can do anything you want to do right now. The kids are gone. The kids are grown. And if you've done what you're supposed to do with them, you have prepared them, just like your grandma said, prepare you so you can take care of yourself.
But some people have the notion that once you have kids, your life is over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, that doesn't make any sense, right?
Right.
So I always tell kids, you guys got it easy. They say, why? I say, because all you got to do is worry about yourself. I said,
Mm-hmm.
but your parents and your grandparents and your loved ones, they worry about
Mm-hmm.
you and them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little
Mm-hmm.
complicated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's very interesting. But I want to hear all about your book and how do you think grandmas could benefit from reading the book? Because I'm thinking maybe we could do this as a book club.
Okay.
I've been recommending book this year. One of the things that I started is to have a book recommendation every month, a different book. And I
Okay.
based everything around these 8 dimensions of wellness. So physical wellness is for January, emotional wellness is for February,
Okay.
so forth and so on, right? And so I want to see where your book might fit into that, and then I will recommend it in my newsletter.
Okay. Well, the interesting thing is the saying itself, right? It
Mm-hmm.
applies to it all, right?
Yes, it does.
Quitting,
Yes, it
right?
does.
And so whether it relates to, physical fitness, right? Like how many people start a nutrition plan, they start a workout plan, and then they give up, So the
Mm-hmm.
premise of quit on quitting came from if you're going to quit anything, quit on quitting, right? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Because God didn't create you to be a quitter, right? God gave you potential, right? And within potential, you could do what you want with it. That's free will. And so in the book, I unpack a lot of different things. So whether it's physical fitness, whether it's mental health, whether it's past trauma, it's doing the work that's necessary to get us to where it is that we want to go. Right
Mm.
now, why is that important? It's important, especially, in your movement when you're talking about Grandma 2.0 and redefining, what it means to be a grandma, right? That means that I'm taking back the power,
Mm.
not letting anybody else, like we
Mm.
said earlier, dictate who I am. And so
Yeah.
sometimes we have to do work. We have to do the work because what happens is, and I tell, in my men's meeting all the time, I always tell them, right, women wear hats is what we call it, right? You guys wear a lot of different hats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And men take on a lot of different roles. But what happens is, whether we're wearing hats or we're taking on the roles, sometimes our identity get lost in the hat.
Yes.
So you got the hat of wife, you got the hat of mom, you got the hat of grandma, you got the hat of employee, you got the hat of entrepreneur, and your identity get lost in those things. So when I'm coaching people and I'm asking, well, who are you outside of that? And they
Mm.
give me this blank stare, I know that it's a question they never considered. Right. And so in my book, these are the things that I'm talking about. The other way that it could absolutely help is because let's just, on a spiritual standpoint, we have some traumas and some things that we make sure we have to deal with or the next generation is going to deal with. And so I talk about that as well, right? Like, everybody deals with trauma in a different way. And there's no right or wrong way. Like some people, they want to run, like TD Jake say, they run so far towards their future that they don't have to wrestle with their past. But for
Mm.
some people, they have to go back into that wound, open it up, clean it up, and deal with it that way. And if it's not dealt with, then what happens is we'll start to see those same trends in the next generation and the next generation. So that's why it's important because you guys are the pillars,
Mm.
right? Not just of the family, but of the community, of society, right? And so, it's important to make sure that, our mental health is where it needs to be at. So we make sure that we're not giving the next generation a dirty glass.
Mm. Mm. To
Right?
deal with.
To deal with. So one of the things that I heard with you telling your story about going to school, being a mom, being a wife, cooking dinners, things like that. Here's what I heard. Example. Right? I heard an example, right? You gave them an example. You showed them that it's not okay to be lazy. You showed them that it was not okay to give up on themselves. You showed
Mm.
them that it is okay to reach for the stars, right? Because a lot of times what happens is I think the old generation, when I say old, meaning, like not the grandma 2.0s, but back in the day, they would always say, and I remember when I heard this saying, right? You tell your kids, be everything that you could be, reach for the stars. But what if one day they came to you and said, well, what did you become?
Ooh.
You see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
they say kids often, have trouble, doing what you tell them to do. They never
Ooh.
have an issue doing what they see you do.
Mm. Mm.
And so you were an
Hallelujah.
example, right? You were an example in motion to show, like, look, you can make an adjustment or you can make an excuse,
Mm.
but
Mm.
only one going to get you to your goal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, in my book, I talk about all of that. I the first page start off talking about cognitive dissonance, right? Again, why is that important? Because of the old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. So
Mm.
cognitive dissonance talks about what if you've heard or seen or read something that completely debunked everything that you believed up until that point? Would you be able to have an open mind to grasp that new concept or be so stuck on what it was that you would rather just die with a lie
Ooh. Ooh.
instead of live with the truth?
Yeah. Mm. Mm. And as you said that, I was thinking about this book that I'm listening to now on Audible by Rachel Rogers. Why shouldn't we be a millionaire?
Okay.
Or why should we all? The exact name I'm not sure. Let me see. We all should be millionaires or something. I think that's what it is. But I love that because here's what she's in my mind, here's what she's saying. Change what you're doing. Yeah, we should all be millionaires, is what it is. And she talks about how women are socialized, just what I was saying earlier, to be certain things and to have a certain place. But we are afraid sometimes to get out of our comfort zone to learn something new, right? So that we can get to that millionaire level. So we just sit there and we say, well, nobody's going to buy it because it's me, or nobody's going to believe me because I didn't finish college. I didn't do, whatever excuse we feel like we can make, or because I'm a woman, or because I'm a little thick, or because I'm black, or whatever the reason is. And so we let that get in our way. She calls it the imposter syndrome, right? Where you just think you're not good enough. So you buy into that yourself. Nobody else has to tell you that because you've already purchased that. And, signed, sealed, and delivered, you believe that about yourself, no matter what. But thinking about things from a different way and being receptive, so you're not stuck in that imposter syndrome and you're like, okay, I can do anything because guess what? So and so did it. And, and I always revert back to this. I said, my grandma, who had, I don't know if she had a high school education, to be quite honest with you. Um, we were from North Carolina. Her grandparents raised her because her mom died when she was very young. She started having children very young, right? Her grandparents raised her. They had, both grandma and grandpa were there. They had a farm, they had a store, they had different things. She decided that what she wanted to do at some point in her life is do something for herself, make her own way. So she left North Carolina, stayed in Oklahoma, worked for these folks for about 2 years, saved her money. She lived in the house with them. So I guess she was a living maid, I would say. Um, Saved her money, came back, moved to South Carolina, Atlantic Beach. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. Back then they called it the Black Beach, right? So Myrtle was there, and right between North Myrtle and whatever the other one is there's Atlantic Beach. It's like a couple of streets, right? That they had, and that's where the black folks went. Got a place down there, became an entrepreneur, did quite well. She had us come down during the summers and work for free, right? On the premise that she was going to buy us school clothes. And, I've always been a fashionista. So I was like, yeah, I'm there. So then when we got there, she didn't pay us anything. Oh, and then she said, oh, I'm providing you room and board. I'm not paying you anything. So we had to get a second job, right? So that we could have money. But what that taught me is, guess what, girl? You can do anything that you want to do. You do not have to, I could have been pouty and say, well, grandma, you wrong because you promised this and not did anything and not had any money. But I'm like, wait a minute, we need to figure something else out. So
Mhm.
so my brother and my cousin and I, there were three of us. We decided we were going to try to find a job with somebody else in the neighborhood. So there was this guy today they would call them food trucks, right?
Okay.
And he had a little truck like that, and he had candy apples and what is that other cotton candy and all that kind of stuff, right? So we worked for him, and we set our own hours. He said, when y'all not working for your grandma, you come over here. That's how we made our money to get our school clothes. But guess what? We did that because we felt like we didn't have a choice. We knew what we wanted, and we were not afraid to go after it. And those are the kind of things that this girl talks about in the book about not being afraid. We could have just said, well, yeah, nobody's going to pay us because we kids. Right now, today that might be a little bit illegal to do, but back then people did all sorts of things. And
Now,
so,
guess what y'all didn't do? Y'all
right,
didn't quit.
we didn't quit.
Figure out another way. And so sometimes I have to explain to people, quitting looks different in different situations. So, like you said, those people who come up with, well, because I'm black or because I this or because of that, right? That's a form of quitting,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're
Mm-hmm.
making the wall in front of you so big, right?
Yes.
That it's easier to give up, right? But like you said, getting out of their comfort zone, because we know that where your comfort zone ends, that's where your purpose begins, right?
Mm.
Randy Poach wrote a book. It's called The Last Lecture, right? And he wrote
The
this book
last
while
lecture.
he was terminal ill with cancer. He was dying while he wrote this book about living, right? And one of the things that he said, a wall isn't designed to keep you out. A wall is designed to separate the people who really want it from those who just say they want it.
Mm.
Right. And so, yes, we do at some point have to address that wall, right? But in no circumstances is it okay to quit and just sit there at that wall for 30, 40, 50, 60 years and
Mm.
always wonder what's on the other side of the wall. and will think
Yes.
that the people who got to the other side of the wall have some type of special skills.
Right. And don't you want to be over there and see what's behind that golden door or whatever, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's how I am. Like, now, wait a minute, I need to know what's over there. Right? And
sure.
see if I can get over there. Because that's where all the people, all the millionaires or whatever, all the fancy glancy people, that's where they all hang out. So I want to get over there too. And
Yeah.
not that, and here's another thing that she said too, is that she says it's okay to be jealous because jealousy should motivate you. So if I see something that you have, like, man, so you're riding around in a Rolls Royce, let's just use that as an example, right? I'm like, how did you get that Rolls Royce? I want to get me one Rolls Royce. So I need to figure out, I need to go to your, okay, Keyon, how did you get that road? You can tell me, right? And you tell me, well, I did this, and I had to sell this many books and then, oh, that's how you do it. So now I've got the formula. I can do it. I can try it. But if you sit over here, and she was saying it's what you do with it's okay to be jealous because that just says you want what somebody has had. You want to be, you want to aspire. You're aspiring to do something different. But it's how you handle it. You can be over here and say, well, he makes me sick because he's got that, and talk about you for what, oh, how he got it, don't that sort of thing. Or you can say, Keyon, how did you get it now? Oh, okay, let me write that down. I'm gonna do the same thing. So then I learned from you what I can do to get that same thing.
Okay.
So that's a different way of looking at jealousy because we always see jealousy usually in a negative connotation, right? But it can be a motivating factor.
So one of the things I do with my clients is we do what we call words. And
Mm-hmm.
so we take certain words, and what I'll have them do is I'll have them write down their definition of what they feel it means to them.
Mm,
And not like a textbook definition. No, what does it mean to you? Right. So let's
right.
use the word jealousy, right? So boom, what it mean to you? Then I would say, well, now go ahead and look at what's the Webster's dictionary version.
Mm-hmm.
What's the meaning there? They would write that meaning down next to theirs. Then I would say, well, the closest people, if you had to guess, what's their definition? Right now, the reason why I do this is because a lot of times I feel like communication or the lack thereof, or the lack of comprehension keeps us from getting further ahead. Right? People always say communication is the key to success. No, comprehension is, because you
Mm-hmm.
have two people, three people that's talking and talking and talking and talking, and they're trying to say the same thing in a different way. It's like, I don't know if you ever seen an illustration where one person standing here, one person standing there, one see a six, one see a nine, and like, it's a nine, no, it's a six, no, it's a nine,
Right, right,
right?
right.
And so, get into a point where we, like what she did, how she broke down that word. So now we're on the same page and we're understanding, what it is. So she's saying use it as fuel
Right.
to push your car and to push you further. Don't
Mm-hmm.
use it as gasoline to set yourself on fire and die.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, like where the jealousy turn into hatred, turn into envy,
Right.
and things of that nature.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
And
that's a great example.
yeah, it is a great example. I think, and a lot of people do use that and then they use that as their excuse. Well, she makes me sick, and I don't want to be like her. Well, okay, whatever. Do you is my thing is always do you, boo, please. But here's what I'm going to do over here. And if you want a piece of that, you want to learn how to do that, then you come join me. That's totally up to you.
You know what's so interesting about that? People hate success,
Mm,
and they hate success because they feel like it reminds them of their failures or their quitting, right?
yeah.
And I noticed that even with this stuff, and this is an unpopular conversation that I've been having, across every event that I've been going to. I've been talking about this lately, because your feelings towards something will determine, how you attract it in your life. Like if you
Mm,
hate success, how can you then go out and ask God to give you success and work towards something that you have
mm,
hate towards? Okay,
mm,
so I give you an example, right? I love music, right? And so when I think about and I love my community also, right? So I think about the whole thing with R. Kelly.
mm-hmm,
I said, the community canceled him. Okay. Well, then I asked the community, do you cancel him because of the things that he did or because of his success? No, the
mm.
things he did, that was wrong. I said, well, have you talked to your cousin that's doing the same thing?
Ah, preach.
No, you're not, because it's not about the thing. It's
Mm-hmm.
about the success. You just
Mm-hmm.
using the thing to
I got
crucify
you.
him for his success.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
see what I'm saying?
I do
And
see. Yeah, it's
so
the same thing with the whole P. Diddy situation. When that first came about or first came out, people were saying, "Oh, I can't believe he did this and I can't believe he didn't." I said, "Well, now, okay, now, let's just back up. I'm not saying, allegedly he did this. I don't know, to be honest. I've never been to one of his parties. I don't know. All I know is that we have all, if we've been to college, most of us have been to a party very similar to that, right? Maybe we did not know what was going on in the back room, but we had some idea, probably, right? Maybe we've been to a party and we knew there was a lot of drinking. We knew there was people doing things in people's drinks. I mean, I've had that experience myself, where I went to a party when I was in college, and when we left the party, the whole world was spinning. And I'm like, what the devil happened? Right. And it took me a day to recuperate from that. And I still to this day don't know what happened. Right. So I'm thinking now that I know about P. Diddy's situation, or now that I heard about that, I'm like, oh, you think it was a P. Diddy moment? Right. But again, we do not know. And so I always feel like, he who cast the first stone, without sin. And we all have sinned. Okay, let's just keep it real. So who are we to judge somebody else? I just know that the way that I feel about some of these situations is that if I had a 14-year-old daughter, I would not let her go live with R. Kelly. That's all I know.
for
I
sure.
would not let her go live with R. Kelly.
Now, and here's the other thing, and I didn't even bring that part up, but the interesting thing to me is you crucify him, but feel like right next to him on the cross should be the
The
parents.
parents, me too. That's what I'm saying. I would not let my 14-year-old daughter go live with R. Kelly. Okay, why would I do that? Now, I've been a victim of that, of molestation myself. So I know how that feels. As a little girl, I know how that feels. So I would never, with my own children, I never let them go. And I said, oh, no, I'm staying right here with my children. I'm going to protect my children because I know what people will do to your children. I know that firsthand. So
Hmm.
I will not, so that was not even, not a thing that I would even do. I really didn't even want my family to even take care of them. You know what I mean? Without me being there, that sort of thing. And that's the kind of thing that you learn if you've been a victim of that. So when they talked about Aaliyah and how the parents, I'm like, I don't see how they would even do that. I said
Yeah.
they're the ones that need to be held accountable for that.
Yeah.
But that's a sad situation, and I really don't like talking about it. But you
I
know,
get it.
but you,
And that's one of the things that, again, with your movement, we have to get it. That's the new generation, right?
uh-huh.
Because the old generation, they didn't talk about
They didn't tell
anything.
it.
Right?
Yes.
And so, because of that, when you don't talk about it, you make the next generation susceptible to it, right? So, I
Mm-hmm.
just spoke to about 40 kids, teenagers from 13 to 18. And one of the things that I told them was, I said, it's a sad reality that now drugs is a part of y'all culture.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, see, that's because the last three generations, what we experienced with the drug epidemic in the Black community, we wanted to run so far away from it, right? Seeing our family members, on crack and different things like that, and seeing
Mm-hmm.
what it did to them, we didn't want nothing to do with drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so, but now, 3, 4 generations later, these kids don't know anything about it, right? A lot of them don't, right? Don't know anything about, seeing that, parents or friends' parents strung out on drugs and losing everything, that they think is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Those things can be avoided by having the tough conversations. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that, the new grandparents are doing
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
is having those tough conversations despite how they feel about it, because we know that's where the healing actually takes place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And you're right. We have to do that. We have to, like even the conversations about being a Black boy in America. We have to have those conversations with them to let them know. Like my grandson had to go to court because he got a ticket. And I said, okay, Cameron, make sure that you dress a certain way when you go in there. Make sure that you're saying, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whomever. Make sure that you are not showing your tattoos when you go in there. Make sure that you're going in there and you're presenting yourself as an upstanding citizen, because that will gain you more respect than if you went in there with your pants hanging off, your shoes half on, your behind showing, your underwear showing, whatever, all those things. I said, so be careful. I said, take any, like sometimes the guys have the little earring studs, and I said, take all that off and make sure, and I didn't say you had to go in there with a suit on. Right? You don't have to do that, but you need to know how to present yourself in front of certain people, and I think that's another thing that we need to teach our children as well. How to present yourself. And it's okay to speak in slang and whatever the latest terminology is for when you're with your friends, but when you're with adults, speak a certain way, act a certain way, and those kind of things. You need to be able to maneuver in any situation. And
Yeah.
that's what I always wanted my children to understand, because I think that's where the success will begin. If you think you have to act the same way all the time, we know life ain't fair. Okay, we already know that. So let's not pretend. So let's be able to maneuver and be able to hang in any kind of situation. Okay. And that way you don't have to worry about it. And that doesn't mean, and I don't want you to be afraid of your people either, because I hate Black folks that are like that. Why are you afraid of your people? Right. I can't stand that either. So, but again, those are some of the things that I think that we need to make sure that our children and our grandchildren understand and are aware of. Yes, definitely.
Sure. For sure.
Mhm.
I mean, we need to stop telling these little boys that boys don't cry,
Right. That's another thing. Yeah.
right?
Well, because we
Because
all cry.
because you know what I mean, like you build these young men into men that learn to suppress their emotion, and then when they're grown men, you are mad at them for not expressing their emotions.
Right, right, right. How is it that you can't say you love me? What is happening right now? Right. I'm
Right.
saying, oh, I love you so much. Oh, okay. What? That is not the right response.
It's the
Right?
programming, right?
Exactly. Yes. But again, you're right. You're right. Because we want them to be tough, but no, we don't. We want them to have feelings. And
Mhm.
the background, my background is in education. And we teach young children, even in the preschool classroom, about how to deal with their emotions. That everybody has emotions and it's okay. And on a daily basis, teachers will ask them, so how are you feeling today, Keyon? And today it might be mad. Well, I'm mad today. And so we say, well, why? Why are you mad? What happened? Did something happen? Or I'm tired today. Well, why are you tired? Or I'm so happy today. Well, what happened that you're so happy? Right. So it's at least it's letting them know that it's okay to express how you feel.
Mhm.
I have a 3-year-old grandson, and he will let you know very quickly, I'm mad. So why are you mad? Yeah. And I asked him, I said, why are you mad? He said, because Dada did this and took my thing and said I couldn't play with him. I said, okay, well, that's enough. I would be upset too, but it's okay. Because sometimes you are not going to be able to play with your toys all the time. Sometimes you have to do other things instead of playing, and try to explain to him, okay, mama, is what he says. And then he moves on. And then sometimes he'll do something and I'll laugh and giggle. And I just laugh. He said, Mama, it is not funny. Just and I said, I know, but you're so cute. I can't.
That's amazing. So he
Right.
can express himself, right? And
Exactly. And that's what I
move
said.
forward.
And his mom was like, wow, he just knows how to express it. I said, yes, he does. I said, and that's a beautiful thing, because that's what you want him to do. You do not want him to hold it in. So when he's upset, because he will tell you, I'm upset, I'm mad, I don't like that. And that's what they teach young children these days in the school. It's called emotional intelligence, which and that's what they teach them. And I think that is probably one of the best things, because we have children coming into the classrooms that are just so distraught about things they see at home, don't know how to unpack it, don't know what to do with it. They then come in and take it out on somebody else. And now you've got another situation on your hands.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing when they do that. I really love that. So tell me about your business coaching now, because you mentioned a couple of times. So give me a little bit more. Give us a little bit
I do business and life coaching. And
more. Okay.
again, sometimes you have people who don't have success just because they don't know the way. And you have
Mm-hmm.
some people who I like to say a lot of times, if you do the numbers, right, they say the numbers, uh 90% of most small businesses fail in their first 5 years. And then of those who succeed, 50% of those fail in the next 5 years. And so a lot of times what happens is people go into business with an employee mindset.
Mm, mm,
And so, business coach or mindset coach, it's all about your mental, right?
mhm.
And, because you have some people that will say, man, I want to get in the best shape of my life, but they're in Krispy Kremes every other day, right? Your mindset isn't conducive for what it is that you're saying. You can't talk right and walk left. And
Mm, mm.
that's why coaches are important. I always tell people that all successful people have coaches,
Yes.
right? Unsuccessful people just have opinionated friends.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
And
So,
most of them aren't in the field that you need the coaching in.
and they don't know, right?
They
And
don't
so it's important,
know.
and we know the old saying was birds of a feather flock together. That
Hmm.
stuff holds so much weight. Those old principles are so true, right? Like it's not what you know, it's who
Who
you
you?
know,
Hmm.
right? That
Hmm.
why? Because just who you're rubbing elbows with, rubbing
Hmm.
shoulders with, it matters. You can't not be motivated, right? I know it's a double negative, right? You can't
Right.
can't not be motivated around motivated people,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So I always try to surround myself with people that are doing something, right? Because you can't just sit there because now you're more exposed. You
Yes.
got to
Yeah.
get out and move and do something as well.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
so some of the stuff is straight business, some of the stuff, is life. And we have to dig into that because it's just like the bag lady, right? Sometimes your personal life is affecting your business life.
Mm.
You get to your shop and you could do this and you could do that and everything is great, but you got this personal stuff that's nagging at you, that's not allowing you to truly shine the way that you want to shine, and it's affecting your business. And so sometimes people don't see those blocks. They say you can't see the forest while you're in the tree.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And so, being able to show and my approach is y- helping you discover what it is that's causing a block. So that way you could take ownership. So the purpose
Mm.
and the way that I coach is create dependency, not or independence, not
Hmm.
being dependent.
Hmm. Hmm. So then you can operate on your own. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, something comes up, you have certain, skills and, action steps that you could take to help you find the answer again, right? Once
Hmm.
you know 1 + 1 = 2, right now we can add, okay, well, 2 + 1 equals, right? It's just the
Hmm.
formula. That's just
Hmm.
what it is.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I
Okay.
don't think that people really understand how much your mindset affects every aspect of your life. You have someone who said the best sermon I ever heard was from a man who had his doctorate in psychology and theology.
Hmm.
And it was so impressive.
Interesting mix. Yeah.
It was so impressive because one of the things that he said, how many times do people go to church and they leave it there?
Mm.
Right? You ask them, how was church? Church was good. You ask them, okay, well, what was
What was
great
it
about it?
about?
What
Yeah.
was
What's
good
the
about it?
scene?
And
Yeah.
they can't even remember because they
Mm.
left it there, right? Or, Tuesday, Wednesday, now they need their fix again. They can't wait until
Mm.
Sunday. Why? Because it's not preaching to their mind, it's preaching to a feeling.
Mm.
So they feel good in that moment, but they actually evolving spiritually?
Mm-hmm.
And that was his whole message, right?
Mm.
If you're not evolving spiritually, then you're just coming here for decorations every week.
Right.
That's
And that's what some people are there for. Yeah, that's exactly what some people are there for. Yeah, that's interesting. You've heard of Carol Dweck, Dr. Carol Dweck.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, she coined this term, the growth mindset.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and so she talks about, she asks the question, "What's your mindset?" And the growth mindset, someone thinks in that way when they're thinking about how they can improve themselves, right? What talents do they have that they can improve whatever it is that they're doing? They don't give up. They try things, just what you were saying earlier about those folks that just, they quit on quitting. They
Mm-hmm.
quit before they even get started. They say, "Oh, I can't do it." Well, she's saying, no, we all have talent. So you just need to figure out what yours are and then go about pursuing that, with it and don't give up. So you're right. It is definitely, I believe very strongly that it's all about mindset. No matter what you do, that's what it comes down to. And, I used to tell my nephews everything comes down to a decision that you make. You can decide I'm going to go left and go over here and do all these bad things, and then the chance, getting myself in trouble, getting thrown in jail, prison, whatever. Or you can say, nope, I'm going to stay over here on the narrow path, and I'm going to do this, 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 and this, because I know this is this is going to lead me here. So it basically boils down to a decision. Which mindset have you adopted?
One of the things that I teach, and I just shared this on a podcast that I did not too long ago, is understanding the difference between decisions and choices.
Mm,
A decision is to cut off any other option. Choices are optional. And so, sometimes people make a choice to say get in shape, right? But they
mhm,
didn't really make the decision. So then when they don't feel like it, they
mm.
could not go, right? Like I have some apparel and it says F your feelings on it, right? And people
Oh
all
yeah, I
be
saw that.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, people be like, oh, what is this? This is kind of you don't think this is kind of too much? And I say, it's not about anybody else, it's about you. Right. So
Mm,
any feelings that you have that's keeping you from evolving or going to the next level, that's not serving you and your purpose, that's what it's towards, not somebody else. It isn't saying that their feelings aren't valid. It's saying that
mhm.
those feelings that's been holding you back, you got to understand which is leading you.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
that's
those,
interesting. Yeah, you're right. I guess you're right about that. I hadn't thought about it that way. So, decision or choice. Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because you make a decision whether you're going to reach your full potential, whether you're going to aspire to,
yeah,
achieve your full potential. Because sometimes we leave a lot on the table. That saying about leaving money on the table. We leave a lot on the table. We know we can do these things, but I don't want to do that. I don't like to do that or whatever. And that's what Roger says too in her book about sometimes we leave things on the table that we know we are capable of doing, but we won't do that. We choose to do something else that may not make any sense or maybe way out of our league. But let's start with this thing that we know we're good at, and then if we and many times we like that thing that we're good at. Like I have some interns that work with me, and I always say to them, I want this internship experience to be something that you want to do, right? So what is it that you want to do? I don't want you to do things that I just want you to do. I have my goals that I want to achieve, right, for my business. And if we can find a nice match, right, that's a beautiful relationship. But if you don't want to do this, let's say, for example, I say, oh, I need administrative tasks done. So that's all I have. And they say, well, no, I'm not good with that. I'm better with technology. Okay, well, what is it that you can do? Give me examples of what you can do. Oh, I can create videos. I can create reels. I can, do graphic design. Oh, well, guess what? In my administrative task, that's one of the things that I need to get done. Right. So
hmm,
yeah, this would be a marriage made, this would be a beautiful partnership, right? Because we both are doing what we need to do. And I want you to like what you're doing. I don't want you to do something that you don't like to do because you're not going to put your best foot forward. I want your best. I want you to be creative. I want you to think like, okay, if this were my business, here's what I would want, and this is what I'm going to do. So I want you to give it your all because that's how I do for my business. So I want you to do the same thing about it. And I tell you, it makes a difference. And some of the kids say, "Oh, really? That's what you?" I say, "Yeah, that's what I want. This needs to be a good experience for you, as well as for me. I don't want it to be one sided because I want you to like what you're doing, and you're the one with the expertise in certain area that I don't have the expertise in. And I'm the first to say I don't know a whole lot about technology. I mean, I can get on Zoom, I can save my recordings, and send them off, but I couldn't go in and chop them up and turn them into little mini videos or shorts or whatever. I couldn't do that. I mean, I may could if I tried, but I don't really want to. That's the
hmm,
other thing, right? But if that's something you like to do, have at it. Yes, yes. So
sure.
I think that that's important as well, and that does come down to us deciding Okay, here's what I want for my business, and I'm giving you a choice. You can choose this or you can choose that. Totally up to you. But choose the one that's going to make you happy and the
Mhm.
one you can live with. That's the other thing.
For
Because sometimes
sure.
we choose
Definitely.
things that we can't live with. Like, oh God, why did I choose that? Right.
And so that's one of the biggest things that I do. That question right there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is
Mm-hmm.
people getting to a place, how did I get here? Why did
Mm-hmm.
I choose this? Right? Like you see people who've been in, relationships or marriages, 2, 3 decades, and say, oh,
Mm-hmm.
we grew apart. No, a lot of times what happens is people hook up with one another before doing any type of self-discovery work. So then 10 years in, 15 years in, something happens, some things change, might be people that you met, some things that you experience, some type of growth that takes place, but it's more about discovering who you are. And then you realize that you may not really like that person, right? But it's because of who you are, not that y'all grew apart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times people don't know who they are, right? I got 5 things that notes that I have wrote down
Mm-hmm.
when I was studying last, and I didn't even plan on sharing this, but I think this is a great platform to share this with, and basically it was saying, life can be summed into these 5 questions. Question one, who am I? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Most people allow that to be defined and dictated, like we said earlier, from other people, from culture, from our
Mm-hmm.
environment, where we grew up, how we grew up, what school we went to, how we look, are we short, are we tall, like you said, are you thick? Like it's not defined by the person within, and most people they either ask themselves this question their whole life, or they never ask themselves this question and just allow it to be dictated by everyone else. That's
Mm-hmm.
identity. So a lot of people have identity issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, most suffer with this question. Um, and so they would rather be a copy instead of an original version, right? And the interesting thing, you said you're a fashionista, right? I love fashion, right? Fashion thrives on people not having great identities
Mm-hmm.
because you have people who are trying to push and be like what they see
Mm-hmm.
in
Mm-hmm.
the fashion world, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why when people come along, like a Dapper Dan, like different people who just, I'm going to march to the beat of my own drum and do it my way. It's like initially, it's like, but then afterwards, it's like, oh my God, you're amazing. And then
Yeah.
you got another million people following that train.
Right. Right. Right.
Question two, where am I from?
Mm-hmm.
And so this isn't always a question of geography, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you ask some people this, oh, I'm from Greece, oh, I'm from Africa, oh, I'm from Egypt, I'm from, here, this, that, and the third. And so, that's one of those questions that, and when we all have different spiritual beliefs. And so, that's typically a tough one, or someone never ever asks. I'm from a mother, I'm from North Carolina, I'm from here. Like, no, I think that when we dive into this question is when we begin to understand purpose and destiny,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, where am I from? Question three, why am I here?
Ooh,
Right? Why am
that's
I
a
here?
big one.
Dr. Miles Monroe always says that your birth is evidence that your presence is necessary. Like you're here
Ooh.
for a reason, right? You're not here
Uh-huh.
just because. And so that's why even, when we started initially, when you were telling me about the movement, I was like, okay, don't let just because you're a certain age stop you from trying new things,
Yes.
discovering new parts of you and who you are, right? Like, yeah, you might not have liked such and such or like, something at 30 years old, but that don't mean you're not going to like it at 60.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, you never know until you try it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that
Mm-hmm.
that's, why am I here? Figuring that
I'm
out
here.
because that's where purpose and destiny lie as well, right? And again, that doesn't have to be tied to everything else all the time. Will you get lost in the sauce and lost in those roles? Question four, what can I do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that's two parts for me. Because a lot of times when people think about what can they do, initially all they think about, and which is great because you were just talking about the interns, right?
Mm-hmm.
This question isn't just about what you're capable of. This question just isn't about what you're comfortable doing. What can I do? Because most
Mm-hmm.
of the times people not doing everything that they can do. Like God created you with unlimited potential, right? But he also gave us free will.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are the only things that have free will. Okay. But we're also the only thing that doesn't grow to our fullest potential. You've never seen a tree that just stopped growing. Like, hey, I think I'm done. Just stop right here. Right? No, they grow until they
Yeah.
can't grow
They
anymore.
keep growing. Yes.
And
Yeah.
so just adopting that mindset of stretch, reach, and press, right? Stretch, reach, and
Mm,
press, right? Like how many things can I put myself into where it stretches me, right?
mm,
Like how many goals can I set where I have to reach for, I have to press, right? It's gonna make me evolve. I can't stay the same person, right? Like a lot of times people will set the New Year's resolution. We just had New Year's, right?
mm-hmm.
And again, these aren't committed decisions. These are things that people just would like to do. But why? They don't want to change. They don't want to shift their mindset. So, it's we say, oh, we upgrade our phones, we upgrade our cars. When the last time you upgraded your mindset?
Ooh,
Right? Like, are you 70 and you're still thinking like it's 1990? Like, no,
right.
it's 2024. So some things we have to, like, we can't keep saying, well, back in my day, well, it's not back in your day anymore.
Right. It's a
And
new
so in
day,
order
kid.
for us to grow, and evolve, one of the things that we have to get better at from generation to generation is staying connected to what's taking place now. So that way we can help our grandkids or the younger generation navigate through things that it looks different, but sometimes it's the same stuff, right? It just evolved. Everything is moving faster now with the internet and social media and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And
Mm-hmm.
so what can I do doesn't always mean how do I feel? What do I feel like doing? No, what I feel comfortable doing. No. Like if you really ask yourself, what can I do? And then you look at what you have done,
Mm,
there might be a big gap.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
if
What
I
you really
did
can
this,
do and what you've actually done with it. Because we
yes.
don't use our talents. We don't live to our fullest potential. We always, yeah.
And every time I think about that question, I think about, where the person had 10 talents, the person had five, and the person had one, story in the Bible, and the one that had
Yes.
one hid the one because they didn't want to lose it. They was afraid of losing it.
Right.
And that's why it says to he who has even more will be given, right?
Yes.
So like we got to understand that our power of manifesting an energy and never stop. Question five, right? Where am I going?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now this is so important, especially for grandma's 2.0s, right? Where am I going? Have you stopped? Have you parked? Do you feel like, oh, this, this car got enough miles on it? I'm just gonna just leave it here, right? Again, it's not over until it's over.
Right.
And the interesting thing, you mentioned Les Brown earlier. Les Brown always says that life, you gotta die to leave it.
Mm, mm, mm.
So until you die, you should live.
Yes.
Again, you should define what that means to live. Life on your terms, not everybody else's.
Yes.
And so I read this book. It's called The Way of the Superior Man. And one of the things that it said in there is that men have this elusive mindset of, well, when my money gets like this, or when this happened, or when that happens. And he said, well, listen, you could tell, depending on how long you've been living, is that nobody knows when their clock is going to run out.
Mm-mm.
And so that day might not ever come. And so one of the things that I teach my clients is that you got to take, even if it's just an hour. That's all I start them with, just an hour a week, no matter how you break it up, right? 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes for 6 days. Like you got to take at least an hour a week and do something you want to do that makes you happy, that's not about no one else. It's important.
Mm,
Why wait? Right?
mm,
Like that's another thing that I tell people, right? And this one be shocking the religious world, right? If I can, right? You have people that are, yes, we are spiritual beings going through a human experience. I
mm-hmm.
100% believe that. But you have
Yes. Donald
some
Lawrence. I
people,
remember that. Yes.
but you have some people in this physical form that will try to be more spiritual than anything, right? And then when they go on to be in the spiritual world, They trying to get back to the physical world. Let that sink in.
Never
While you
satisfied.
you gotta live while you're living.
Mhm. Mhm.
You gotta live while you're living, and don't think that every test is a sign for you to give up, right?
Mhm.
Because even these devices,
Mm.
the device comes, right? They know it works. They give you a guarantee, they give you a warranty, whatever the case may be. When it comes in the box, it got the manual, got all the things, it's all nice and pretty. But guess what? Before it came to you, guess what happened to it? It got tested.
Mhm.
And guess what? Before you go back and meet your creator, you'll be tested. Those tests,
Time and time again.
those tests are designed to
Mhm.
reveal to you who you really are and what you're
Mhm.
capable of. Because when you squeeze anything, the true essence of what it is comes out.
Mm. Preach. Wow. Pastor Keyon Lomax in the house. Wow. And I love that was a whole sermon out of those 5 questions. Wow. So who are you? Where are you from? Where are you going? What can you do? And which one did I miss? So that's 4.
Okay.
Who are you? Where are you from? Where are you going? What can
Why
you
am I
do?
here?
And why? Oh, the most
Why am I
important
here?
one in my mind, why are you here? I love that. Oh my God. That was beautiful. That was absolutely beautiful. And as you were asking those questions and, and commenting on that, I was asking myself those questions, right? And really pondering that. And so that's probably what I'm going to think about the rest of that. I got a couple more meetings, Zooms, but that's probably what I'm going to think about. And I love that because here's the other thing that I realized when I asked, so this is my third group of interns, right? My first group, I asked them, so tell me who you are and tell me your gifts that you will bring to Grandma's 2.0. They didn't have a clue. They said no one ever asked them that. That they helped. No one little boy said, well, nobody ever asked me if I had gifts. I said, honey, we all have gifts. God made us all so that we have gifts, okay? That's because he loves us. I said,
Mm-hmm.
and so you have to realize what that is because I don't know you. This is my first meeting with you, but I know that you have a gift or gifts. Howard Gardner says we have multiple intelligences, right? So
Yes.
let's see what yours are. And I just think about that for a minute. And then the second group, I asked them that question too. So this is on the very first meeting that I have with them. What are your gifts and what talents are you going to bring to Grandma's 2.0? And why did you choose it? That sort of thing, right? Because they get to choose. And just about everybody says, well, I chose because I thought it was interesting. I never heard anybody talk about grandmas before. So, right? And
Mhm.
I said, wow, that's incredible. Seeing that they don't even think about these are high school students,
Okay.
and they don't really think about, I guess, themselves in that way. And I love these questions because these questions are very deep. And if you don't mind, I'm going to start asking them these questions the next time I meet with the next group. I'm going to ask them the question. And
Well,
so
here's the other thing.
yeah, what
So,
I've
so
been
I
doing.
would be curious to know the ones who said no one ever asked them that. If you ask that same group what their weaknesses are, would they have questions and answers?
Ooh.
Now, the reason being is because we hear sayings like so. Here's the type of speaker that I am, right? You hear a lot, and I know you study, you've read, right, and you hear a lot of motivational speakers, right, and they make you feel good and they pump you up, but many of them don't give action steps. Many of them don't show how the things that they're saying show up in your everyday life. And so I
Mm,
like to get to the very bottom, right? I tell people, I deal with the root cause, not you can't just keep treating the symptom, right? You
mhm,
can't
mhm,
go to the fruit and say why you're too ripe. You got to go to the root. That's the only way that you're going to make lasting change. And so we live in a society now where people will focus more on the negative, or we hear the saying where focus goes, energy flows. Okay, well, what does that look like? Well, if you're
mm,
only focusing on your weaknesses and not your strengths, then guess what? You just get to keep your weaknesses and your
mm,
limitations. And so
mm.
we naturally, or the world makes it appear like it's natural to focus on those things. That's like people be like, oh, it's natural to be nervous. I tell people, who says that? Who said that? You could be so excited about your possibility that you don't
Mhm.
even think about being nervous.
Right.
That's
Right.
like the old sayings, well, money don't grow on trees. Well, that's so interesting to me, being as though paper comes from trees.
So technically it does.
Yeah, right. But again, the difference is what the people are focusing on and how they manifest. So you want
Hmm.
to manifest your strengths or your weakness. I tell people, one of the things that I do with some of my clients is I have them write down 300 things that they want.
Mm.
You'd be shocked how much of a struggle this is.
Mm.
See, everybody knows what they don't want.
Hmm.
Not many people know what they want.
Mm. Hmm. Interesting.
And so, we focus on, and that's why it goes back to even down to um, getting out of comfort zone, and making sure that we're in situations where we are stretched. And so I tell people all the time, everybody comes to earth for a reason, but you decide how much of you is manifested.
Mm. Yeah, you do. You're right. We do. We
So,
have that power.
so
Yeah.
I hope that this, serves the grandma 2.0s. If I couldn't leave something else, I already talked about the, making sure that these young men understand, emotional intelligence and how they feel, and it's okay to express them feeling. You gave a perfect example with your 3-year-old grandson. That's amazing. I think that, this will begin to do the work to stop a lot of community violence, because, I tell people all the time, most of these so-called gangsters ain't gangsters. They're just emotional men who don't know how to handle or express their emotions. And
Hmm.
so when we understand this aspect of it, then we can begin to build men who can get to the place of the foundation, and we could build bigger houses on these foundations, and it changed the whole community. And so I think that for uh, grandmas have a way of getting to their grandsons unlike anybody else could, right? It's a, I don't know. I don't even know what to call it. Is right. Again, I just thought about one time, I was, going to do some stuff for my grandmother, and she called me in the kitchen and she said, "Come in here," and I went in there and she was like, "What do you see?" She just had her fist balled up, right? And I was like, "A hand?" She was like, "What do you see?" I was like, "Four fingers and a thumb." Like, what do you see? Right?
What are you trying to get me to say?
Kept asking. I didn't understand where you was going with it. She was like, "Don't be like this." She said, "When you're like this,
Mm. Can
nothing
it
could
be
get
good?
in and nothing could get out."
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, like those things stick with you. Like you said, later on, it hits you in ways that, you know, it helps you become better, people. So, when you do, when you are in a particular role, that's this great. I should have wrote this down. When you are in a particular role, be in that role, right? But when you are in your time for yourself, also be that. And don't
Yes.
feel guilty, because when we learn
Ooh.
to be truly present,
Mm.
and we don't have to feel guilty. I tell entrepreneurs this. This is one of the things, right? One of the, like, you have people that when they're at work, they're thinking about home, and when they're at home, they're thinking about work. They're never
Hmm.
present, right? When you're working your job, if it's in corporate America, or you're an entrepreneur, give it everything that you have. So when you go, you could focus on your family. You could focus on the things that you're doing while you're in there, right? So I always tell people, just because you're present doesn't mean you showed up.
Mm. Mm. Yep.
And so be
That's true.
present in the moment. So grandma's 2.0s, you wearing this hat, right? You're wearing grandma hat when we're in that moment, right? And then that way, when you're over here, you don't have to be guilty when they call and you say, well, grandma's, doing such and such, or I'm on the beach, or you don't have to feel guilty, because while I'm there, you got me 100%.
Hmm.
And so,
Mhm.
but you shouldn't feel guilty with doing, something for yourself anyway, because the more you increase your mental bandwidth and you do things that help your mental health and help you grow as a person, then you have more to give your loved ones.
Mhm. I have so enjoyed talking with you. Oh my God. You have such insight. Your grandma taught you well. You have such insight. It's amazing. And I love the fact that you can, it's very practical, then you can go spiritual and kind of ebb and flow between those two. I love that. And very thought-provoking things, statements that you make. I like that a lot. And then I think that was your final thought a few minutes
Okay.
ago, but do
So,
your social media
so
thing.
everything is Keyon Lomax except for TikTok is Keyon.Lomax. But if you're on Facebook, it's Keyon Lomax. IG, Instagram is Keyon Lomax, and then TikTok is Keyon.Lomax. And on my website where you can buy books or apparel is quitonquitting.com.
Quitonquitting.com. I love that. Quit on quitting. Okay. All right. So thank you, Mr. Lomax. It was absolutely wonderful. And we have gone well beyond our time. And I apologize for that because I usually say these things about 30, 35 minutes, 45 max. But when I have a guest that I really enjoy talking to, I usually just keep going. But anyway, and thank God
Well,
I don't have anybody that was right after you. I have somebody at 3:30.
Well,
So
I want to shout you out, for
okay.
doing what it is that you're doing.
Thank you.
And the reason being is because again, we have a culture now where we give people their flowers too late. And so you creating a movement, where people could come in and it helps them redefine who they are. It helps them take their power back, especially women, right? Because I feel like um women have such an important role in society. Um, one of my mentors told me a long time ago. He said, "When you teach a man, you teach an individual, but when you teach a woman, you teach a nation."
Mm.
And it's because they are also typically the teachers of the kids and things.
Mhm,
And
mhm,
so, I feel like your movement is going to give people life. I feel like your movement is going to save someone that's sitting in a room waiting to be needed. Right? There's a
mm,
grandma somewhere watching their favorite television show, thinking that that's just what it is and that's
mm,
what it needs to be, only for somebody to call, I need a babysitter, or can you do this, or can you help me pay
mhm,
my bills? No,
mhm.
you still have a life that you
Yes,
need to live. And so
yes.
I want to shout you out for doing this. I think that it's an amazing thing. I pray that it goes beyond viral, and touch the masses. So,
Thank you. Thank you
so
so much. I
clap it
appreciate
up
you
for you.
saying that. I appreciate you saying that. And it has been my pleasure today. And I really would love to, we're putting together a documentary right now.
Okay.
And we're asking grandmas to be a part of it, but we're also asking other folks that impact grandmas or have something to say. And I love just what you said. And I know when my interns hear this, because they're developing the documentary, they're gonna say, "Oh, we need him on the doc." So don't be surprised if you get an email from us asking you to be a part of it. Okay.
I'm with it. I'm with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to talking with you again soon.
All right, sounds
All
good.
right.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you. Bye bye.